guys. How are you? God bless you. Some of you might hear like, okay, why is Rich saying this? And that's because I have my Instagram audience for the very first time watching one of our videos. I've never been able to do a live stream on Instagram before tonight. With at least in this platform, I've been able, so we are having our Instagram audience with join us tonight for this teaching, and I will continue to stream on that platform as well. Now, you guys on this chat will not be able to see their comments. However, I can see them on my end, and there are quite a few that have joined in. So I want to say welcome to them. If you're watching, please hang in with us. Again, one of the things we do is we do a live video teaching Wednesday, Thursday, and Sunday nights. And we want to preach the Bible, the whole Bible, the truth, and nothing but the truth. Regardless of our personal feelings, regardless of our biases, everything is about the truth of the gospel, the truth of the Bible, and that's it. So that's what we do here as far as the teachings go. Now, as I go into tonight, again, on Instagram, you may not know who I'm talking about here, but Reuben Israel was the founder of Official Street Preachers. And Reuben Israel passed away in June, and we had went out to Los Angeles to see his family, to see his widow, and to go out there and just preach with the brothers and sisters out in Los Angeles. And it was a wonderful trip. Did a lot of preaching out there, got a lot of fellowship with the brothers and sisters out there. And on top of that, we also came back with a lot of stuff. I'm talking, I've got 3 boxes of stuff from Reuben. And on Tuesdays on my Facebook, we are at the behest of Reuben's sister. She asked if we would take some of these things and go ahead and do Tuesday giveaways again, which we started doing the other day. We've got buttons, we've got books, we've got Reuben's all business cards. I mean, I got boxes of the stuff. So we're going to be giving away stuff every Tuesday, just like Reuben did. And again, this was his sister's suggestion. She asked if we would do that, and I said, of course. But one of the other bonus items I got was I've got all his old VHS tapes from his preaching in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, what he recorded on VHS. No, he did not take the vaccine. So we're going to be going ahead and converting them as soon as I get the right equipment for that. He has old VHS tapes, not hi-fi, anything like that. So there's a converter box I need to get, which is about $200. And once we do that, we'll start getting the that stuff converted. So just a great trip out, you guys. We preach outside of school. We preach in an abortion clinic. We preached out in front, out of the the Christmas drag show. And in Los Angeles, I even got to see a guy. I kid you not. We see it in the news, we hear about it, but I actually got to watch a guy literally right next to us. If you go back and watch the video on the Christian Journal channel, light up a crack pipe and just smoke crack right there on the sidewalk. It was unbelievable. Like right there, the cops didn't care nothing. And then there was a report of a guy with blonde hair who had a gun who exposed himself to a child across the street from us. And again, the cops didn't care. They just kind of mosey on down the road. They didn't even bother to check. And I was like, this is unbelievable. You hear about this kind of stuff, but it's different when you're actually out there and you get to see it and see how truly lawless out there in California really is. Thank God for the brothers and sisters out there in Los Angeles that are out there continuing to preach the word, and bringing the truth of the gospel to people out there. Because if anyone needs it right now, it's definitely Los Angeles, more than anybody else that I've seen in recent memory. But I will say this though: the police in Los Angeles were some of the most amazing police in not Los Angeles, in the suburbs, and Downey. They were great with us with free speech. Los Angeles downtown in the Korean district we were not so great. In Downey, they were awesome. They didn't hassle us, didn't give us any problems. They came up and said, hey, free speech, you guys public sidewalk, anything wrong? Great. And we were like, what's going on here? Something's not right. I mean, it's Los Angeles after all. And then we go to Los Angeles downtown and of course see crack pipes and all that stuff. We're like, got it. So tonight's video, you guys, is going to be about the Christmas video, which I have done for the last, 10 years. Every year on Christmas, I do a video about Christmas. And it's debunking the whole Christmas is pagan myth, which again, this time of year, it gets perpetuated like there's no tomorrow on social media. And most of the information that's peddled by these Christmas is pagan folks is nothing more than misinformation. You will not find one ancient source that confirms any of the things that they claim. Christmas is not a rebranding of Saturnalia, not even the right date. And we're going to go through some of this. So what I've been asking them is give me one ancient source to confirm any of the things you say. It's amazing how all these fake, pagan gods and goddesses all just happen to be born on December 25th. It's not even logical to believe that. But yet there they are doing it over and over again. So as I do this video, I want you to remember this. Number one is we're not saying that you are obligated to celebrate Christmas. There is no command in the Bible to do so. We are not saying if you don't celebrate Christmas, you're going to go to hell, you're going to be damned, you're going to be cursed. You don't have to do that. If you're not celebrating Christmas and you're honoring God by doing so, God bless you for that. However, if you are not doing it simply because you think that if you do it, you're going to go to hell, you're doing it as an obligation under the law, well, you might want to rethink that point and actually educate yourself properly. But again, we are under no obligation to do so. There are some of us, however, who do celebrate Christmas and with its original intent. It is not about, Santa Claus and reindeer and all this other nonsense. As Christians, we don't do that. Now, I know a lot of parents that teach their kids about Santa Claus, and they say, well, we teach them both. But the problem there is that, you're replacing Christ with Santa. And a lot of parents may not think that they're doing that, but that's precisely what they're doing. Because think about it, when a kid wakes up on Christmas morning, when you give the option between Santa Claus and Jesus, they're going to see the presents thinking, oh, Santa Claus broke into my house and left me presents. But that's simply not the reality. They're worrying about Santa. They're not worrying about Jesus at all. Jesus isn't even a thought in their mind come Christmas morning. So while you may think you're doing both, you're actually lying to children, teaching them about Santa Claus. And it's something that, again, I don't believe in lying to children. I think it's something that as parents, we should not do. And we should really take stock of that because, you start telling your kids about Santa Claus, next thing you know, you want to tell them about Jesus, and then what? And then you're gonna go ahead and tell them about, Santa. You're gonna lie to your kids about Santa Claus, and one day you're gonna tell them about Jesus and expect them to believe you. I mean, we should really think about some of the things we do and say before we do them. But that's neither here nor there. This video is literally going to be about the myth that Christmas was pagan. But even if it was, even if Christmas did originate, so what? Weren't we all pagan at one time? Are we not Christianized pagans, if you will? Even if it was, so what? There's not a single person outside of this social media realm that knows who Nimrod and Tammuz and all these guys are. There's not a single person that's sitting there going, oh, I'm going to celebrate the birthday of Tammuz today. Nobody does that. Okay. Some people are condemning people to hell for things that they have no idea. You're falsely accused. And this is no small thing. Some people don't want to get involved in this debate, but for me, this is not a small thing. When you start literally accusing people of going to hell for something like this, it's a problem, and we need to be better than that. We cannot do things like that because of our own personal biases. And as a Christian, one of the things I pride myself on is being properly educated on some of these subjects. I'm a big history guy. I love history. I love studying. It's one of my favorite things, one of my favorite pastimes, if you will, is to study. So a lot of these things I've studied out, and I've studied it extensively. And as I've studied this, I've come across, documentation from a certain time period. And you find that most of this mythology that people peddle is not true. But I want to ask you a question as we get started tonight. Do you really believe that you're going to find the truth from a source that doesn't follow, in a lot of cases, literally hates God? Do you think you're going to get any truth when it comes to God from people who hate God or don't believe in God? Okay? It's actually a really good strategy of the devil to try to, to take the world's focus off of Jesus and put it on something secular. Put it on, a Santa Claus and a reindeer and snowman and all these things here. And then another way to do it is by convincing Christians that if you do celebrate Jesus, you're engaging in something evil. I believe that the love of Christmas coupled with a loathing of Christianity is one reason why atheists continue to repeat and peddle the claim that Christmas is nothing more than a repurposing of a pagan Roman holiday. Two of the most popular pagan holidays put forth are the Saturnalia celebration, which honored, the Roman god Saturn. It was a harvest festival. And the Sol Invictus, Dies Natalis of Sol Invictus. This is the birthday of the unconquerable sun. Both of these celebrations were held in the second half of December, making them kind of close to Christmas, but not really. Even before as a Christian, I never believed in the idea that Christmas is somehow pagan. I don't believe that somebody who's sitting down with their family and is enjoying a meal together and they're thanking and remembering the birth of Jesus Christ. I never understood the mentality that somehow doing that means you're worshiping some God you've never heard of. I never found it to be credible. But me personally, I wanted to study it out some more. Okay. I looked at scholarly sources. I looked at the Bible. I looked at historical sources. I didn't look at anyone's blog. I certainly am not educated based upon some social media meme or some YouTuber that thinks they got it together. When I give a teaching, I like to cite actual sources. And one of the sources that I've been citing recently is Sextus Julius Africanus in his writing Chronographia, which is written in 221 AD, and where he said in his estimation, the birth of Christ is December 25th. That's over 100 years prior to the Catholic Church existence. So how anybody can claim that the Catholic Church invented Christmas is beyond me. And it was a Christian that picked the date. And we'll find out later on why. Nothing nefarious, wasn't a repurposing. But again, even if it was, so what? But doing this research, I found that most of what you're going to hear about this is not true. The cult's been very skillful at repeating lies. Jehovah's Witnesses, Seventh-day Adventists, Armstrong followers, the Hebrew roots people, all of these guys. Okay? And what they've done is they proliferated fake news. And a lot of Christians have bought into this lie and are being condemned to hell for simply honoring and remembering the birth of Jesus Christ. I have spent a lot of time, a lot of energy over the years going through this. And for me, I don't even like engaging in stupid arguments. Okay. If you don't want to observe Christmas because of commercialism or for some personal reason, this doesn't apply to you. Okay. No, I am not in the business of condemning somebody to hell because they said, Christmas is about commercialism, because mostly you are correct. Christmas is a commercialized holiday. Most people do not celebrate it because of Christ. That is true. So, but if you're one of those, this does not apply to you. But if you believe it's pagan and you think that Jeremiah 10 somehow applies to Christmas trees, I hope you're going to take time to actually sit down and listen. But I have found that most people, sadly, they're not really interested in hearing anything new. When they do hear something new, some new information, their cognitive dissonance seems to kick in and it just ignore all of the historical evidence. But I hope you do listen. Now, the claim that Christmas is pagan, that Christmas, the roots of it are pagan, is something, again, every December, starting probably November, you hear over and over and over again. It's nothing new under the sun. The Puritans, right? They valued work more than celebration. They taught this. It was a Puritan preacher named Mather. He preached that the early Christians first observed the Nativity on December 25th. And they did so thinking that Jesus was born in that month. But because the heathen Saturnalia was at the same time kept in Rome, they were willing to have those pagan holidays metamorphized into Christian. When you actually dig into the history, though, of that claim, you see a much different picture. Now, when you look at this question, there are literally only two ways we can approach this. One is to see how December 25th became associated with Christmas or with Christ's birth, how the early church would refer to the day of Christ's birth. And the other one is to look at the celebration of Saturnalia, Sol Invictus, and these other things. And either approach is going to show the dubious nature of the claim that Christmas has any pagan roots whatsoever. Much of the argument of the pagan Christmas claim rests in the idea that Christianized Rome tried to convert a lot of people that wouldn't have wanted to give up their festivals and their traditions and all these things here. And they claim it's the same thing as like a church doing a harvest fest instead of Halloween, right? Yet scholars and anybody who actually does any digging into this to verify for themselves, you're not talking about somebody's blog, actually go looking at ancient sources. You're going to find that the marking of December 25th goes a lot earlier in the Christian history. A lot of what is documented comes from, the work of the Venerable Bede, which was in 672. He was around 672 to 735. He calculating September 23rd as the date of John the Baptist's birth, add 6 months, brings us to March 25th. Through this reasoning, Irenaeus established that March 25th was the date of the Annunciation, and that was before the end of the 2nd century. The Annunciation was being celebrated a lot longer prior to Christmas as we know it today. Since the Annunciation was miraculous, the birth was a mere function of human biology. Okay? In the year 221 AD, by this time, 3 Christian writers had independently calculated the date of Jesus' birth as December 25th. Irenaeus identified the date of his Annunciation before the end of the 2nd century. Hippolytus used a different method but determined December 25th as the date of the Nativity in 202 AD when he wrote his commentary on Daniel 4:23. And then Sextus Julius Africanus, in writing his Chronology of the World in 221 AD, had calculated December 25th. So we have this being calculated and done long before the Catholic Church even existed, okay? Now, again, I will give dates. I will give names. I gave you the writings. I gave you the authors. You can research this all for yourself. We know when these writings are. They are dated. This isn't just made up. This isn't Uncle Jethro's blog. This isn't, a Facebook meme. This is actual history that cannot be distorted, no matter how much you want to try. But if you go back and you look, and you translate Hippolytus' commentary in Daniel, okay, which was written sometime between 202 and 211 AD, scholars note that 5 of the 7 manuscripts contain December 25th as the date of Jesus' birth. And then another offers the 25th of either December or March. Clement of Alexandria in the same time offers the date of March 25th as a date of the Incarnation. That is the conception of Jesus in his stromata, right? That's the work that he did. But both works tie the idea that Jesus' death would have happened on the same day as his conception. So when you look at it, Christmas and Easter are linked together. And this is the key factor when determining the December 25th date. There was a belief in the early church that the date of the death of Jesus would also somehow reflect his birth or his conception. Augustine wrote, saying, "For he is believed to have been conceived on the 25th of March, upon which day also he suffered. So the womb of the Virgin in which he was conceived, where no one of mortals was begotten, corresponds to the new grave in which he was buried, wherein was never man laid, neither before nor since. But he was born according to tradition upon December 25th. John Chrysostom, in his writing, goes even further by noting that the angel Gabriel's announcement of Mary's conception happened while Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant with John the Baptist, right in Luke chapter 1, verse 26. He argues that Zechariah's service was the Day of Atonement, thus making the conception of John the Baptist happen in the fall. At 6 months, bam, Jesus' conception, right, lands in the spring, March 25th. Now, I don't know if this is accurate, this actual dating method here, but it shows that early Christians tried to tie these two events together. The idea of randomly choosing a pagan date, it's a huge stretch, and it's just simply not true. Ancient Christian writers built the timing for the birth of Jesus, okay, from the observation that Zechariah was on duty on Yom Kippur, which was September 23rd. And this comes from Luke chapter 1, verse 8 through 11. Once when Zechariah's division was on duty and he was serving as priest before God, he was chosen by lot, according to the custom of the priesthood, to go into the temple of the Lord and burn incense. And when the time for the burning of incense came, all the assembled worshipers were praying outside. Then an angel of the Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar of incense. The day of Yom Kippur is the day in which incense was offered in this manner. That's a fact. Now, when you look at this, Christians were able to calculate the birth of John, the forerunner, right, John the Baptist, as September 23rd plus 270 days, which is now June 24th. They then observed that the Annunciation of Christ's birth was 6 months after John the Baptist's conception. And you see that in Luke chapter 1, verse 26 and 27. In the 6th month of Elizabeth's pregnancy, the angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph of the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. December 25th was chosen from Jesus' conception. That's it. Nothing nefarious. It's as simply as that. There's no pagan origins to it. There's not a single source in history anywhere that says that. You will not find one. Now, for me as a Christian, I like to tell the truth, okay? Because if you're wrong about when you preach or teach other things, and you're wrong, and then you're showing you're wrong, and you continue peddling that, that means that you can't be trusted even as a biblical source, okay? You definitely, can't be trusted. You cannot be taken seriously, okay? So we got to make sure as Christians that we are correct when we teach and say things, because if we're not, we could wind up in hot water, because it could hurt our witness and it could hurt our credibility when it comes to trying to reach people for the gospel, for Christ. So the most loudly touted theory about the origins of the Christmas date, that it was borrowed from some pagan celebration, is just not true. The Romans had their midwinter Saturnalia festival in late December. Barbarian people of northern and western Europe kept holidays at similar times. In 274 AD, by the way, the Roman Emperor Aurelian established a feast of the birth of Sol Invictus on December 25th. Christmas is really a spin-off from these fake pagan festivals, they say, right? However, Christians deliberately chose these dates to encourage the spread of Christmas and Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. If Christmas looked like a pagan holiday, more pagans would be open to both the holiday and the God whose birth it was celebrated. It doesn't make any sense to sit there and say that. If Christmas looked like a pagan holiday, more pagans would be open to both the holiday and the God whose birth it celebrated. Sol Invictus was put on December 25th after Christians were already celebrating Christ's birth on December 25th, not before. Okay? And I know, it's very popular. It's very dogmatic, right? You not find anywhere in any Christian writing, anywhere in history, about pagan origins of Christmas. Christian authors, they note a connection between the solstice and Jesus' birth, right? The church father Ambrose, right, in the mid to late 4th century, he described Jesus as the true son who outshone the fallen gods of the old order. But early Christian writers never hint at any recent calendrical engineering. They don't think the date was chosen by the church. Rather, they see the coincidence as a providential sign, a supernatural proof that God selected Jesus over the false pagan gods. It actually isn't until the 12th century that we find the first suggestion that Jesus' birth celebration was deliberately set at the time of pagan feast. So the first 1,100 years of Christianity, nobody thought that. It wasn't until 1,100 years later when you find even the first mention of that. And it was only in a marginal note on a manuscript of the writings of the Syriac biblical commentator Dionysius Bar Salibi, and he states that in ancient times, the Christmas holiday was actually shifted from January 6th to December 25th, so that it fell on the same day as the pagan Sol Invictus holiday. In the 18th and the 19th centuries, Bible scholars, spurred on by new study, they latched onto this idea. They claimed that because the early Christians didn't know when Jesus was born, they just assimilated pagan solstice festivals or feast holidays for their own, claiming it was a time of the Messiah's birth and celebrating accordingly. But again, Emperor Aurelian, right, established the Sol Invictus on December 25th in 274 AD. He decreed that day as the day of the winter solstice celebration. This is more than 50 years after Sextus Julius Africanus established Christ's birth, 72 years after Hippolytus had done so, and 100 years after Irenaeus established March 25th as the Annunciation. So here's the thing. If Christians were recognizing the birth of Christ by the beginning of the 3rd century, does it make sense to think that this was a 4th century invention to sway the Roman populace over to Christianity? Christianity was gaining ground in the time of Clement. I mean, it doesn't mean that they weren't in a persecution, they were, but it was gaining ground. And it wasn't borrowing much from pagan customs at all at the time. So why believe that they would do it on this date when they didn't do it for anything else? That literally makes no sense, and it's only because people want to tie it to the Catholic Church. And the Catholic Church has absolutely nothing to do with the date of Christmas. Nothing. To me, it's amazing, okay? It's amazing to me that the same people that have so much animosity towards the Catholic Church are literally just like them in their, ignoring, changing, and revising history. It's literally what liberals do. The liberals love to rewrite history. Well, the Christmas Pagan people are literally doing the same thing. And when presented with all of this evidence, names, dates, history, writings, they just ignore it as if it didn't happen and continue to peddle false information. Now, I know there's some Christians out there that like to say things like, well, brother, history doesn't matter. But it does. Because the Bible is a history book, is it not? Do we not learn our history about our faith, Jesus, through history? While there are some things on faith, the virgin birth, the resurrection of Christ, those are all taken on faith. We do have evidence that people did witness those things, But the historical references in the Bible are all true. It doesn't take faith to look at a writing and say, well, when we have archaeological evidence that proves it. But again, you don't find anything else anywhere that Christians co-opted pagan traditions in anything in our faith. Only on Easter and Christmas, they say, and it's just not true. In my personal opinion, I think it's pretty legalistic and pharisaical to say that one should not celebrate Christmas. There are different ways, right, that the term legalism can be used. And one way is used to mean that we take laws that are not God's, in fact, man laws, and make them equal with God, right? For example, we take man's law that says we shouldn't smoke. Now, the Bible doesn't say whether we should or shouldn't smoke. It doesn't say you shouldn't drink. It doesn't say you can't go to the movies. We take our rules that we apply in our church or denomination and apply it to everybody. Now, again, I'm not making justification for any of those things, so don't twist my words and get it wrong saying, oh, Rich Minkowski says you can smoke, because I didn't say that. That's a type of legalism. We make things wrong that the Bible doesn't explicitly make wrong. And that's exactly what these people do with Christmas. If you celebrate the birth of Jesus, then they say you're doing something wrong. The point is, this view is extremely legalistic, and it makes things that aren't scripturally wrong, and it makes them wrong. It makes something a rule to apply to men when God did not give that rule to man. I believe that the practice of Christmas is completely legitimate, even though there may have been, there's this Santa Claus stuff. I don't do the Santa Claus stuff. Any real Christian doesn't incorporate that into it. That's not pagan roots. That's consumer roots. It's a focus. It's a way to take the focus off of Jesus. That's all it is. It doesn't mean just because some people do it this way, that means that everybody's wrong. Because you know what? When we do Christmas, my kids know Santa Claus isn't real. My kids know any gift we give them comes from me and their mother. And you know what? My kids appreciate it more because they know mommy and daddy took the time to ask them what they wanted and get them the gifts they want. When you ask my children, why do mommy and daddy give you gifts? They say, because you love us. And I say, right. So who else? And they say, because God gave Jesus Christ as a gift because God loves us. That's how my kids view gift giving on Christmas. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing saying, oh my gosh, Rich, you're going to hell for that. No, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay. So we're celebrating the birth of Jesus. Now, again, we're not obligated to do so. There's nothing in Scripture that says that we have to. But it does strike me that it is entirely appropriate. It's appropriate, but not obligatory. If you look back at the Old Testament, one of the things that God did is he arranged for the Jews to celebrate festivals that he established to remind them of the significance of that event by participating in these festivals annually every year. That's the point of those festivals, as a reminder, okay? God wanted them to remember these things. Even Hanukkah wasn't given by God in Scripture. It's something that they do to recollect a deliverance, a special deliverance that God gave them during what we call the intertestamental period, which is those 400 years between Malachi and Jesus. Theirs is a festival that is common now, but it has no source in Scripture. But it does function like many other things that are in Scripture. It reminds people every year of God's faithfulness. So for me as a Christian, I don't see anything wrong, and I think it is in with God's purview to honor and remember the birth of Christ. The two biggest significant events in our history are the birth in Christ and the death and resurrection. Three things. Those are the three biggest things that we should remember. Nobody argues that we don't remember the resurrection. Nobody argues we don't remember the death of Christ. But for some reason we argue we should remember the birth. God had a festival for every major thing he did for the Jewish people, and he wanted them to remember. So why would God not want us to remember Christ's birth? Again, not obligatory, but what's wrong with it? Nothing. I don't know how anybody can look at some of the songs that we sing and say that it's pagan. Look at some of the things that we do. We talk about Jesus Christ. This entire month we've been nothing but talking about Jesus, 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 Jesus is real. How is that pagan? Even if the word Christmas itself, the word comes from the Catholic Christ Mass, the word, it doesn't mean that now. This is a fallacy going back to the original etymology of the word and holding that as if you say this word, you're reaffirming that meaning instead of the meaning that you hold the word to have right today. Words don't work that way, people. What the word Christmas means is the day that Christians celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. That is all, that is what it means. That there is not a bit of paganism in that. And for anyone to say that 500 years ago it meant this is inconsequential. It doesn't mean that. When we say the word Christmas, we're not blaspheming. It doesn't mean that. It just means that we're celebrating the birth of Christ. So if you ask me, should a Christian celebrate the birth of Jesus? That's really what we're talking about here, right? Some people say no. I say you're not obligated to. I think it's quite appropriate. I don't think you're obligated to, though. But celebrating the birth of Jesus doesn't do anything pagan. And for anybody to do that, you're bearing false witness. This is no small thing. You cannot condemn an entire group of people because of your personal convictions and your lack of education on certain areas. Because you are guilty of condemning people, sowing discord, and bearing false witness. Two of those things are on the list of people. God says he hates people that do certain things. Bearing false witness and sowing discord. God says he hates people that do that. You're doing two of the things that God says he hates. And you think somehow that makes you holy than everybody else. If you were really that holy, you would just keep your mouth shut. But you can't. You got to make sure everybody knows. Even though you are historically, biblically, archaeologically wrong. Because the true meaning of Christmas has to do with Jesus. It isn't about love. It's not about giving. It's not about peace on earth. It's about Jesus Christ. The other things may be related, but Christmas is not about those things. When I see people on Facebook telling others to take their Christmas tree down, repent for the soon coming of judgment of God, it's such a misrepresentation. It's a part of that religious spirit that wants to destroy the message of the birth of Christ. We need to walk in freedom. But if we want to do a thorough research on this passage, that our freedom can be found, sound, and secure, you have to realize that the historical interpretation of this verse was not talking about Christmas trees, forbidding the holidays. This verse occurred many years prior to, right? Talking about the freedom in Christ and all these things here. Now let's look at Jeremiah 10. This is the favorite, everybody points to Christmas trees. Jeremiah 10, verses 1 through 10. I'm going to read the whole thing. This is what the Lord says. Do not learn the ways of the nations or be terrified by signs in the sky, though the nations are terrified by them. For the customs of the people are worthless. They cut, and here's the part that they mention. They cut a tree out of the forest, and a craftsman shapes it with his chisel. Somehow they ignore that part of it. They adorn it with silver and gold. They fasten it with a hammer and nails so it will not totter. Again, they ignore the hammer and nails part of it. And they take silver and gold. See, you put Christmas decorations, silver and gold. Well, people with silver, gold, red, blue, green, all these things. And by the way, this verse talks about actual silver and actual gold. They would lay gold and silver over the wood. Not even remotely close to a plastic Christmas ball. But they forget that part and they forget the hammer and nails part. Like a scarecrow in a melon patch, their idols cannot speak. They must be carried because they cannot walk. Do not fear them. They can do no harm, nor can they do any good. So here we have this verse. This is an idol that people carry around. Nobody is carrying around a Christmas tree and saying, look, look, look. Nobody is literally doing that. These verses have nothing to do with Christmas trees. Verse 6 says, no one is like you, O Lord. You are great, and your name is mighty in power. Who should not revere you, O King of the nations? This is your due. Among all the wise men of the nations and in all their kingdoms, there is none like you. They are senseless and foolish. They are taught by worthless wooden idols. Hammered silver is brought from Tarshish and gold from Euphaz. What the craftsman and goldsmith have made is then dressed in blue and purple, all made by skilled workers. But the Lord is the true God. He is the living God, the eternal King. When he is angry, the earth trembles. The nations cannot endure his wrath. This is the verse that people on Facebook repeatedly cite. See, aha! Do not learn the ways of heathen. Cut a tree down, Christmas, got it. But this is talking about idols. Scarecrows, they don't walk. A chisel, crafting it, carving it out with a chisel, making an idol like a scarecrow. It's a face on it. The decorated tree that Jeremiah is talking about here was cut down and made into an idol. It was a common practice of the time. Idolatry has its demonstrations in every generation, and this is what they were doing in Jeremiah's day. The wooden idols are compared with the Lord. That's what he was saying. They're comparing them. If you take time and actually read through the Old Testament, we find a lot of examples of trees being planted, cut down, and turned into false gods or idols of worship. One that is very significant is the Asherah tree. And we know that the Asherah was a pagan goddess who was worshipped at the time. She was thought to be the ruler of the sea, at least, that's what they say. And she was portrayed as a tree or a pole, planted or posted, and then decorated. And there's a lot of warnings against worshiping the Asherah tree in the Old Testament. Just do a Bible search and you'll find it. In Exodus chapter 34, verse 12 through 14, we see, be careful not to make a treaty with those who live in the land where you're going, or they will be a snare among you. Break down their altars, smash their sacred stones, and cut down their Asherah poles. Do not worship any other god, for the Lord, whose name is jealous, is a jealous God. Now we also can see in Deuteronomy chapter 16, Micah chapter 5, that Asherah trees are planted. Sometimes they're erected. In 1 Kings, 2 Kings, altars, incense, all these things. In Judges chapter 6 verse 25, Gideon is commanded by God to tear down your father's altar to Baal and cut down the Asherah pole beside it. Isaiah 17 chapter 8 and Jeremiah 17 chapter 2, the Asherah, along with other man-made idols, were decorated with cloth hangings, as well as gold and silver. If you move on down the line to Isaiah chapter 44, verse 14 through 19, you see a detailed picture of how a tree was cut down and fashioned into an idol. We have it here. But the Jeremiah 10 people never mention this. He cut down cedars, or perhaps took a cypress and oak. He let it grow among the trees of the forest, or planted a pine, and the rain made it grow. It is man's fuel for burning. Some of it he takes and warms himself. He kindles a fire and bakes bread. But he also fashions a god and worships it. He makes an idol and bows down to it. Half of the wood he burns in the fire. Over it he prepares his meal. He roasts his meat and he eats his fill. He also warms himself and says, I am warm. I see the fire. From the rest he makes a god, his idol. He bows down to it and worships. He prays to it and says, save me, you are my God. They know nothing. They understand nothing. Their eyes are plastered over so they cannot see, and their minds closed so they cannot understand. No one stops to think. No one has the knowledge or understanding to say, half of it I use for fuel. I even baked bread over its coals. I roasted meat and I ate. Shall I make a detestable thing from what is left? Shall I bow down to a block of wood? We can clearly see that cutting down a tree, decorating and worshiping it as God and as one's idol is forbidden. No one's going to argue that. It has nothing to do with observing a holiday that celebrates the birth of Jesus. Most people have no clue that the Old Testament speaks of all this, and they're just simply decorating a tree. That's it. God is a God of the heart. He isn't up in heaven with a suspicious intent going, finding his children caught in the act of something that he must come down and judge them for. The Bible teaches Jesus died in our place, so that no one ever had to live apart from God, as long as we repent and obey Jesus. He says to receive this free gift and we shall have eternal life. Pretty ironic, isn't it? That someone would teach that God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son to die for them, but now he's suspicious and angry for the very same people because they have a tree in their living room. Come on. If you're gathering in a tree and you're praying to it, worshiping it, asking it to answer your prayers, well, yeah, then that's an issue we can discuss. But I don't think anyone is doing that, okay? Some of you Christians pagan people are going to have a real problem if you look at some of these verses. Let's take a look at Isaiah chapter 60. I believe it's verse 13. Let's see how they decorate the temple. Some of you are going to have your minds blown right now. The glory of Lebanon will come to you, the juniper, the box tree, and the cypress together, to beautify the place of my sanctuary, and I shall make the place of my feet glorious. Are you telling me they cut down trees and you brought them into the sanctuary for a decoration? How could you, Isaiah? How could you do that? Unbelievable. I can't believe it. If you look at 2 Kings chapter 6, some of you are going to have your mind blown even more. Let's look how they decorated the sanctuary and the temple back then. Let's see what they used, right? Let's see. Look here. Please, Jordan, make us a place. Where is it here? The one said, okay. No, my Lord, Elijah. I may be wrong here about that verse. Do not fear, Elijah. Okay. I'm obviously not correct on 2 King. You okay? Maybe it's 1 Kings 6. Sometimes they get this first and second ones messed up, but let's see. Oh, yes, 1 Kings chapter 6, sorry. Now it came about in the 480th year after the sons of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon, God bless you, Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Zib, which is second month, he began to build the house of the Lord. And for the house which King Solomon built for the Lord, its length was 60 cubits, and its width 20 cubits, and its height 30 cubits. The porch in front of the nave of the house was 20 cubits in length. All right, let's get back. Let's go to the decorations. Also for the house, we made windows with artistic frames. Against the wall of the house, we built stories encompassing the walls of the house around both the nave and the inner sanctuary. Thus he made side chambers all around. The lowest story was 5 cubits wide, and the middle was 6 cubits wide. Okay, I'm looking for the direct, okay. Verse 7, the house, while it was being built, was built of stone prepared at the quarry, and there was neither hammer nor axe or any iron tool heard in the house while it was being built. The doorway for the lowest side chamber was on the right side of the house, and they would go up by winding stairs to the middle story from the middle of the third. He built the house and finished it, and he covered the house with beams and planks of cedar. He built stories against the whole house, each 5 cubits high, and they were fastened to the house with timbers of cedar. Now the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, concerning this house which you are building, if you will walk in my statutes and execute my ordinances and keep all my commandments by walking in them, then I will carry out my word with you which I spoke to David your father. I will dwell among the sons of Israel, and I will not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house and finished it. Then he built the walls of the house on the inside with boards of cedar from the floor of the house to the ceiling. He overlaid the walls on the inside with wood, and he overlaid the floor of the house with boards of cypress. He built 20 cubits of the rear part of the house with boards of cedar from the floor to the ceiling. He built them for on the inside as an inner sanctuary, even as the most holy place. The house, that is, the nave in front of the inner sanctuary, was 40 cubits long. There was cedar on the house within, carved in the shape of gourds and open flowers. All was cedar. There was no stone seen. He carved images of gourds and flowers in the sanctuary. How dare you, Solomon? Then he prepared an inner sanctuary within the house in order to place the Ark of the Covenant. The inner sanctuary is 20 cubits in length, 20 cubits in width, and 20 cubits in height, and overlaid it with pure gold. Ah! How dare you! He also overlaid the altar with cedar. So Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold, and he drew chains of gold across the front of the inner sanctuary, and he overlaid it with gold. He overlaid the whole house with gold until all the house was finished. Also the whole altar, which was by the inner sanctuary, he overlaid with gold. On the inner sanctuary, he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. He carved the images of angels to put in here. I can't believe it. In the inner sanctuary, right, 5 cubits was one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the other wing of the cherub. From the end of one wing to the end of the other wing were 10 cubits. The other cherub was 10 cubits. Both the cherubim were of the same measure and the same form. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was the other. He placed the cherubim in the midst of the inner house, and the wings of the cherub were spread out, so that the wing of one was touching the one wall, and the wing of the cherub was touching the other. So their wings were touching each other in the center of the house. He overlaid the cherubim with gold. Then he carved into all the walls of the house round about with carved engravings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers in its outer sanctuary. How dare you? You're carving these images into here. It's unbelievable. Now, if you go to verse 32, he says, so he made 2 doors of olive wood, and he carved on them carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold. And he spread the gold on the cherubim and on the palm trees. 34, verse 34, and 2 doors of cypress wood, the 2 leaves and 1 door turned on pivots, and the 2 leaves of the other turned on pivots. He carved on it cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and he overlaid them with gold, and he even applied on the engraved work. This is unbelievable, Solomon. How dare you put those images in there? How dare you? Unbelievable. You can't do that. It's unbelievable. Can't believe that he would carve images of flowers and gourds and palm trees and angels. I can't believe he would do that in the sanctuary. See, the Pharisees would go absolutely insane with that kind of stuff if they actually read the Bible. So my point is this. If you don't celebrate Christmas because of consumerism, that's fine. God bless you. If you're honoring God by not celebrating it, God bless you. You're not obligated. But if you're honoring Jesus Christ and remembering his birth, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing. Colossians chapter 2, verse 16 says, and I'll end with these verses. Therefore, no one is to act as your judge in regard to food or drink or in respect to a festival or a new moon or a Sabbath. Now, again, I know some people say, well, holy day, not holiday. These people are so dumb they don't realize the etymology of the word holiday literally comes from holy day. That's literally what the word means. So they're just uneducated. Don't let anybody tell you or condemn you for honoring Jesus' birth. Romans chapter 14, verse 4 through 6 says, who are you to judge the servant of another? To his own master he stands or falls, and he will stand, for the Lord is able to make him stand. One person regards one day above another, another regards every day alike. Each person must be fully convinced in his own mind. He who observes the day observes it for the Lord, and he who eats does so for the Lord. For he gives thanks to God, and he who eats not for the Lord does not eat and gives thanks to God. So, Christmas does not have roots in paganism. December 25th was not chosen for any nefarious purpose. We have writings going way back, way back, all the way to the early 200s, which was hundreds of years before the Catholic Church even existed. And in 202 AD, December 25th, we see from Hippolytus, was over 50 years prior to the Sol Invictus being pushed by Emperor Aurelian on December 25th. And if somebody is this uneducated when it comes to history, can you really listen to anything they have to say? Can you really take seriously their eisegesis, and that's what they're doing? We have history. We can't sit there and ignore it simply for the sake of, well, I don't care. I don't care what you say. The Catholic, I literally heard people say it. I've even heard, you want the proof I'm saying, every single thing that I did, you can go look. Sextus Julius Africanus, Hippolytus, Irenaeus, Clement of Alexandria, all those things, it's all there. It's amazing to me. See, I want proof of what you're saying. Look it up. Now, how come I have to offer proof, which I did, and I gladly do, but none of the Christmas Pharisees have to offer proof? I'm not saying you're one of those. I'm just making a point. They never have to provide any evidence for their claims, but we have to, even though they're the ones making the claims. To me, it's amazing how that works. That this is what we've come to in Christianity. So my point in doing all this for you guys today is this. If you're honoring Jesus, God bless you. I believe it's quite appropriate. I think we've made the case here. You can look up every single one of those writings by the authors that I named, and you'll find it's all there. Okay? But you'll also find that none of these Christmas Pagan nut jobs can offer any proof or any single citation from any actual source. Okay? You just won't find it. It's not there. That's why it's not there, because it just doesn't exist. So don't let these people tell you that you're going to go to hell for honoring the birth of Jesus. That doesn't even make any sense, does it? We have freedom in Christ. There's nothing pagan about remembering the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Okay? No, I know that, but I'm on a YouTube video. If I had a handout, I would hand it to you right now to look up. You're right. No problem. I would do that in 2 seconds. But that's why I do the video. You can go rewind and play and all that stuff. And again, I'm not hating on you for it. I'm just, again, you can look all these things up for yourself, but you won't find, again, one ancient source that says that Christmas is pagan or even anything remotely close to that. So, but that's all I wanted to do tonight. Now, I am on Sunday night, I'm going to start a video. I am going to start a video series, if you will, debunking a couple of things. And the only reason I'm doing it is because of the discord that it is sowing between Christians. I'm so sick of people who want to change words and the meanings of those words based upon their feelings. Brawling, striker. I actually heard somebody literally teach that self-defense is brawling. It's an insane argument. And they use, turn the other cheek as one of their Bible references as a call to pacifism. That's not even what the verse means. They always say turning the other cheek, but they're not even quoting that part of that verse correctly. It's if somebody smacks you in your right cheek, okay? From a right, and those words are significant. But this is the kind of stuff that gets people hurt. There's no proof to show, Mordecai. What do you mean there's no? There's plenty of proof. I just told you, Sextus Julius Africanus in his Chronographia, which is the history of the world, 221 AD. You can look that up. Hippolytus in his commentary in Daniel 4:23. You can look that up. You can also look up Irenaeus and his writings, Clement of Alexandria. It's all there. I mean, I just told you. Link to what? Look it up. Do some actual studying. I don't know what more I can give you. I'm not here to hand you out a piece of paper. But anyway, I did a view on railing and the definition, and we asked somebody today, what's the definition of railing? Because again, there are people calling other churches, members of churches, saying you shouldn't go to that church. What a wicked thing to do. To call, who does that? Adam LaCroix, Gabriel Riveras. I mean, literally telling Brother Kyle that he shouldn't go to Victor Church, and then they want Victor's number. What are you, people out of your minds? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And I've even had Dr. Michael Brown look at it, and he said it's poor exegesis. And I tried to correct Adam today about it. And I said, listen, you're going to cause a lot of harm. You're telling people that if they defend their life or defend the life of somebody else, that they're brawling and they're going to go to hell. And if they don't believe you, that they just want a revelation from God. You want to talk about gaslighting somebody and then told me that I don't have a revelation that he has. And I need to pray about it. I'm like, what are we, Mormons now? What, I need a burning of the bosom to make sure? I mean, these are not small things. Sowing discord, false teacher. That's what we're talking about here. False teaching. It's a serious issue, and we're going to start doing that on Sunday night. Now, as far as some of these other things, Santa is an anagram for Satan. Do you know that that actually started as a Saturday Night Live joke from Dana Carvey with that church woman? There is no history to that whatsoever. Santa Claus is a fictional character meant to detract from Jesus Christ. It's not an anagram of Satan. Satan it literally means the accuser, but everyone wants to be so spiritual about things that we interject things, and you're taking your lessons and your morality from a comedian. For crying out loud. A comedian is where you're getting your source from. By the way, this is a mug from Ruben's that his sister gave me. Gave me this mug from Ruben. One of Ruben's mugs. So, I got all kinds of stuff here. So, that's my video for tonight, guys. Only an hour long. But I think it's important. I wanted to keep it that way on purpose so that people can go back. I know I talked fast through it, but I want people to actually watch it. I want people to go look up those sources for themselves. Verify the stuff, okay? I get what you're saying here, oh, the paper, proof. I gave you names, dates, and the writings itself. At some point in Christianity, we have to learn to kind of do our own research, okay? We kind of have to do that. None were presented. See, now all right, whatever. Now, as far as Christmas goes, a celebration, today's Christmas celebration is nothing like it was even 100 years ago. See, today's Christmas is about consumerism. Stores saw an opportunity to go, we can make some money by selling stuff. And voila, modern day Christmas was born. Christmas trees, by the way, are a relatively modern invention too. The first even remote sighting of it was in 1576 in a painting in France. You never even heard of a Christmas tree prior to that. Those are facts. Christmas celebration used to be just a festival, a feast. That's it, just like any other one. They had a meal, a celebration. That's it. Okay? But to sit there and say I didn't get proof, I mean, that's just, you see what I'm saying? It's just not true. I mean, they so desperately want to hold on to their tradition of these things that even new information, they don't care. Well, you know what? I want to see proof. I gave you proof. Okay. What was the part where Christians were celebrating Christ's birth? The writing's there. That they were picking that date so they could have a celebration. It's not the same as we see today. They weren't out there going to stores buying gifts like that. No, they weren't doing that back then. Again, that's a modern consumerist twist on things. They just had a meal together. They honor and remember Christ's birth. That's all there is. The first American outlaw Christmas being too European. No, only the Puritans in Boston did that. Only one colony. That's it. But I've given you names, dates, writings. Again, I'm asking anybody prove, name one pagan source. Name one ancient source that debunks anything I've said. Just one. I've been asking for a month now, and no one's given it. Why? Because it doesn't exist. So I want to say thank you, guys, for joining me tonight. I appreciate you all. And again, for those who joined me on Instagram for the first time, welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I hope you got something out of this. Like I said, I haven't streamed any of these things on Instagram before. Today is the first time. So I appreciate all those people coming on. And for those of you on Instagram, if you want to follow us on YouTube, you can join in the chat with the others. Our YouTube channel is @OfficialStreetPreachers. Or you can just go youtube.com/@OfficialStreetPreachers, or you can just go to YouTube, type in Official Street Preachers, and you'll see our logo, which you see on the screen here, with the megaphone of the Bible in front of it. That's our channel. If you follow us there, please consider giving a subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure when you hit subscribe, you go back, hit the bell, and hit all notifications. I got YouTube to admit they were shadow banning, and I got them to admit that, if people don't turn it on, they'll make the choices for them on what videos they show them or what videos they don't show them. So if you would, if you got some value out of here, go back and look at some of our other videos We are a street preaching ministry. We are a teaching ministry. Okay. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. We want to edify the body, edify the saints, preach the truth. And again, we want people to come to the full knowledge of who Jesus Christ is and who God is. Not a God they made up in their mind, not a God that lets you do whatever you want. The God of the Bible has standards, and his standards are holiness. Jesus says, if you love me, you will obey me. If you're not obeying Jesus, you don't love Jesus. It's that simple. You can tell me you love him till the cows come home, but if you're not obeying Jesus, you don't love Jesus. That is what he himself said. But Sunday night, we're going to start dissecting some of those videos to prove, to show what brawling is and how, biblically speaking, we are allowed to defend ourselves and we are allowed to defend the life of other people. I believe if you stand there and watch somebody get pummeled to death, then you're evil. I don't say anybody who calls a Christian could sit there and just watch. So make sure you're subscribed, make sure you hit that button, and please encourage others to follow and like the channel too. With the shadow ban that YouTube has on us, which they've admitted to, and I shared that email with some of you, the only way we can get around that is by helping each other. So if you would do that, I appreciate that, and we're thankful for that as well. Also, don't forget, I do want to convert all those tapes, which are, where's that tub? It's actually over here to the left of me, in front of me. And I have all these. I'm going to show you here. I have a whole box with, I don't know who this person is yet, but I got a whole box of books here from Ruben's house. I mean, literally an entire box. Somebody named Mark Cahill. He's got a whole book, a whole thing of books here. I've got tons of these books. I've got Are Men Born Sinners? The Myth of Original Sin by Alfred Overstreet. I have. This is all came from Ruben. I don't remember him giving these books away from Cahill, and I don't know much about who this person is, so I have to do some research to make sure it's sound before I give them away. But I do have these books here that were in Ruben's house, and his sisters gave them to me. I thought there were some, books from Jim Weber in here, but I don't see them in here. I have, let's see, Ransom, The High Cost of Sin by Dean Harvey. I think some of these people might have given Ruben books to give away. Sanctification by Charles Finney's in here. Let's see what else. Just the Facts About Jesus by Larry Keffer. More of those are You Born Sinner? There's a couple of DVDs in here. Let's see what we got here. Let's go through this here. So I got a bunch, like I said, I got a bunch of stuff here. And we are going to, like I said, these are going to be on the giveaway Tuesdays. So if you want to be part of that, make sure you're friends with me on Facebook, which is facebook.com/the Firebrand Preacher. So I have, let's see. I haven't done the Zoom one in a while. Lukewarm No More and Stand Out. Mark Cahill. Again, I don't know much about who this guy is, but they're in there. And there's a couple DVDs here. Kevin Farrer, Africa 2008. There's three. I'm assuming the same one. They're the same thing because they all label the same. So I got 3 DVDs from Kevin Farrer. I don't know what's on there. I have to watch it and see for myself. But I got all kinds of stuff. I got a box in front of me here, in front of my desk, which has buttons in it. I've got boxes of ammunition here that we got. So 223 ammo we got. Now I can't give this away, obviously. This box looks like it's water damaged. Let me take a look and see. No, I guess it's okay. Just the shell. It's just the outer casing. But we got, like I said, we got all this stuff, from there. These we won't be giving away. I'm just showing you we got, stuff. And, of course, we got some hoodies and some shirts, things like that. So, again, my Facebook page is facebook.com/the Firebrand Preacher for the Tuesday giveaway. If you want to help us with converting those VHS tapes, the machine I need is about $200. Unfortunately, I'm tapped out because of that trip to LA was over $1,000 for us. So if you can help with that machine, I'd appreciate it. Also, we still want to go out and preach in Dallas. Again, street preaching is not cheap. It costs money, unfortunately. But if you want to help support the ministry, again, remember, we are shut down over 40 drag queen story hours. We stopped Oklahoma Children's Hospital from performing transgender surgeries and giving puberty blockers to kids. We stopped the drag show happening at OSU and Bartlesville. There is no drag queen story hours taking place right now in the state of Oklahoma. In Tennessee, I testified in a House Judiciary Committee against Facebook and helped write a bill to stop the drag queen shows. God has really used this, and God has really worked through us to end and expose a lot of this stuff. And we're very appreciative and thankful for that because, again, at the end of the day, it's God doing it. We're just servants obeying God and just showing up, and then he does the rest. If you want to help us continue that mission to stop the sexualizing of our children, you can donate on our website, officialstreetpreachers.com/give. We also have Venmo, which is at Official Street Preachers, and Zelle, which is admin@officialstreetpreachers.com. The links are in the description on our Rumble channel and our YouTube channel, and are also scrolling at the bottom of the screen here. Again, every donation we get goes back into ministry, our traveling expenses, shipping items out, shipping Bibles out. We also have a young lady in Florida that we are looking, I told you about her, to rescue, who's in a bad situation. We're still praying about that, making sure everything's on the up and up. So please keep us in prayer with that as well. But if you do want to help with our ministry so that we can continue traveling, preaching, and standing against evil and the sexualizing and trafficking of children, again, please consider giving a donation on our website, officialstreetpreachers.com/give. If you want to help with that machine, as soon as I get the $200, I'm going to buy the machine. I'm going to start converting Ruben's videos, and I will upload them to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@officialstreetpreachers. I put a little clip up today from Kevin Deegan of 2001 Ruben and Gasparilla at Super at the same time, where he told people wearing plastic beads they look like a plastic Mr. T. It's quite entertaining. With that said, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. We love you all. God bless you all. Don't forget, Sunday night, we're going to start breaking down Adam LaCroix's video on what brawling is. We're going to give you the truth, the etymology of the word, what it means biblically, and how self-defense is completely biblical. Love you guys. God bless each and every one of you. I'll see you guys Sunday night.
I would like to address some of you upcoming street preachers. You have to understand, you're not going to be a pulpit preacher. You're not going to preach in very nice places. As a matter of fact, where God will send you, it's going to be a little bit dirty. Unfortunately, most ministers see their flock dressed nice, looking nice, smelling nice on Sunday. But we see them from Monday through Saturday at any given place. And so that flock is a mess. And you have to understand, when you preach open air, it's not going to be glamorous. Unfortunately, God's going to send you into the filth, the wickedness. You're going to understand why, even at one point, God resented even making mankind. And so you need to count the cost. There's nothing glamorous. There's nothing wonderful and beautiful. It's not, you can forget about being a missionary to Hawaii. If you're going to be an open-air preacher, your hands are going to get dirty because the field that you're going to plow is filthy. You're going to look at sin in a whole different way. As a matter of fact, if you're a good street preacher, you're going to hate sin. You're going to despise sin. You're not just going to dislike it. You're going to understand why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah and why God destroyed the world with water and flood. And so if you're a young open-air preacher, this is what you're going to have to look up to. This is going to be the field in which you're going to be plowing in. And you need to rejoice in that and understand you're going to be hated, despised, and jailed working in a place like this. Because one day, I'm going to die, and I'm going to be with the Lord. And all this will be yours.